Today we're going to talk about masking. Hiding, blocking, faux masking. We're going to cover it all. Pun intended. So let's just check it out. Let's start with some tape. I have some regular painter's tape and I just tear off a piece, and this can be sticky, and if it's too sticky just add it to your sleeve or to your pants if you don't have long sleeves, and this will add a little bit of fluff on the bottom and that will make it less sticky. And then I'm going to tear it in half, which is kind of tricky as it is rolled up a bit, so it's not quite working with me, but I'm going to win from my tape. And then I'm going to add pieces to my card. I'm adding the pieces at an angle on my card just to create a fun pattern. And then I have a dauber size mini blending brush that I'm going to use to apply my ink. And these blending brushes are really cool. They work with stencils very well also. And because of the small size, you can apply just tiny bits of ink along the edge of the tape. I'm applying my ink in a circular motion. I start on the tape and then make my turning motion just on the card. So half on the card and half on my tape. And this way I get a nice colored edge. I'm not worrying about any perfect blending or smooth color transitions or anything like that. I'm just applying some ink and some color difference. I'm not worried about that. I think it just adds a bit of interest to my design as well. For today's video I've teamed up with Ardit again, and she has lots more ideas on how to use masking on your crafting projects. And I will point you in the right direction at the end of this video. And then I carefully peel off all the masking tape. Make sure to peel it away at an angle so you don't rip your paper. And then I'm going to put it back in a slightly different angle on the card, just dividing the spaces in between those layers that I already added. And just trying to create a fun pattern again. Then I'm going to add my ink, and this is a bit of a darker color blue. I'm going to apply it in the same way, just with a circular motion, and I'm not really caring about any spots or bigger blobs of ink because I think it all adds to the interest of the pattern. And of course you can go for a perfectly blended option. That's all up to you because you can do it any way you like. That's the fun thing with this and with crafting in general. And while you are here, make sure to leave a comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I'd love to have you join me here. And now I'm going to use a purple, and this bottom tape rolled up a little bit also with the previous layers, but that's not, well, that big of a deal because it still will work fine. And using and reusing the tape like this is, well, a bit frugal, but you can also see it as environmental friendly, which is way cooler than just being frugal, right? Then I'm going to peel away my tape again. If you have trouble peeling away that tape, you can always try using a heat tool to make the peeling off easier. And I think this makes a really interesting pattern that can be used in multiple ways. Next I have some Dylusions shimmer sprays, and I also have a scrap piece of paper that I fold a few times so it's a bit more sturdy. Then I make sure to shake my sprays really well so the mica part is mixed with the ink. When the bottom is clean, you're ready to go. And then I'm just adding my first color on the left side. And this spray bottle was new, so first came nothing and then a lot, so I'm going to blot that with another piece of card. And then I'm going to hold my folded piece of printing paper above my first layer. And then I'm going to do the same for the next color after that. Now, because these inks are still wet, they will blend. And if you want this technique to work in a bit more sort of compartments of color, then you need to dry them in between each layer. But this is a really simple and cool way to add different colors without a completely blended look. And because there's so much ink on my card and it's still wet, I add another card on top, and this will give you 2 cards for 1, which is always cool. And this makes a really pretty colored background in a very simple way. For one of those backgrounds I taped 3 of the big sentiments together and cut them out at once, making it a big bold sentiment on my card. With the same sentiment in black added a bit of set to the back makes this a really simple and fast card idea. Next I have an 8x8 size piece of card, and I have one of Art by Marlene's new stencils. I also have some pieces of torn paper that I'm going to add to my card. I divided pieces of torn paper over my card and I'm going to stick them to the card using a small piece of tape to the back of the card and the back of those strips. And this will help to make sure they stay put. Then I'm going to add my stencil on top of these layers. And then I add that complete stack to the make art station. I add some of those big magnets, and then I'm going to play with some ink. I'm going to add different colors. I'm using 3 different colors, and I use those big blending brushes, which work really well with stencils. They don't damage, which can happen when you use the sponge applicators. And I'm just applying my ink in different sections on different parts, and I'm spreading my colors a bit over my complete background, holding the stencil on the edges so it doesn't move while I apply the ink. And again, you can go for perfect blended colors or adding them in rows or using different colors. I'm using these 3 colors just spread over my card to get a bit of variation going. So I have some of those lovely colors all over my card. And then the reveal, which is always exciting. I take off the mask and then I peel away those torn strips, and then you have a torn stencil with the original stencil still intact, but this really cool torn stencil look. And of course, we're not going to do some regular cleaning. Just add your stencil on another card, take a wet wipe and wipe off the ink on your card. And this is basically cleaning disguised as crafting. So you have one more project and your stencil is clean. And that's totally a win-win in my book. And here are the cards I made. Some butterflies on both cards with some thread to the back, some Nuvo drops on the left card, some regular splats on the right one, and some big bold sentiments on both cards. And then another fun and simple masking technique. I've colored this stamp and now I want to create sort of a border. So I'm going to tear up a piece of paper using the card size and the stamped image as a guide. So I'm just making a wonky torn pattern. And once I have a shape that I like that fits my image, I'm going to add some Pixie powders to my desk. And these are the same colors I use to color my image. And I'm going to pick up the color with a wet wipe. I'm adding a little bit more water to dilute the powder. Then I add my mask in place. And I'm going to wipe from the mask to the sides all around the outside of my card, making sure that I hold the mask firmly down and I turn the card while I'm adding my color. And once I like the look and the color, I'm going to remove the mask. And this is a really simple way to create a fun border. And here I have another colored image, but I also colored a bit around that image. I've torn another piece of paper, and if you want to, you could use craft plastic as well. So you can use it over and over. Then I add a drop of watercolor on my desk and I dip in the brush. And then I'm going to just tap on the brush to make some splats all around my card. A lot of ink will give you some bigger splats or drops, and just a little amount of ink will give you some smaller drops or splats. And then I carefully lift up the paper, making sure not to mess it up in the end. And then of course I will put it aside to dry before I can turn it into a card. I just added them to a slimline size note card. And this is another fun way you can use your DIY masks. I hope you're ready to use some of those fun masking techniques and try them out yourself on your craft projects. And as promised, here is Ardit's video and you make sure to go check it out. Say hi to her from me and from yourself, of course. And as always, make sure to keep on crafting. Here is Ardit's video, as I promised. Oh, waar is je oor? Je hebt helemaal geen oortjes. Doe je oortjes eens goed. Daar is de bol. Bol. Man!